need is like my fucking fiance or something like that to text me. It's Thanksgiving weekend, so my kids are with my fucking dad right now, and he doesn't really. He's not the most, what's the word I'm looking for? He's not vetted when it. Yeah. So he calls, like the other day, my kid had like a fever, and he's like, the baby has a fever. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's what fucking babies do, bro. And he's like, no, like, should we give him Motrin? I'm like, dude, we already gave him Motrin. Like, let the baby settle in, let her calm down. And he gets in panic mode. You know what I mean? So all day I've been having to like put out fires because my fucking dad is like, when do I feed it? What do I, like it's a gremlin or something like that. Do I feed it after midnight? Do I put it in the sunlight? Like, what do I do? Do I give it water? It's like, dude, come on, man. It's not that difficult, but all right. So today we are going to be discussing 8th step. Let's get into 8th step. Step 8. All right. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. This is a very easy step to understand and get done. The only thing you need to do is write the name down. Oftentimes, people are afraid to write the name down or don't write the name down because they think that it implies they're going to have to make this amends, or they don't write it down because they are afraid, they don't know how to make the amends. It doesn't matter. The most minimum thing we have to do today is write the name down. We'll worry about the amends later. Before we get into what is an amends, what is harm, what does it mean to become willing, etc., we're going to talk about list making. Everybody in here has made a list before, or plans on making a list at some point. Now, what are some lists that you may have made before in the past? Can anybody think of a list they have or have had in the past? Type
lists.
What was it?
To-do lists.
To-do list.
Like just stuff you need to get done.
Yeah. And keep it.
List.
What was it?
Grocery list.
Grocery list.
A work list.
Work list. Bucket list. Hold on. Dude, this fucking dog, bro. I can't focus. Come on. Inside. Put your fucking bucket.
That's my birthday long yesterday.
All right. To-do list, grocery list, work list. What other lists have we written down before? Chore list.
Christmas card list.
Christmas list. I missed that last one.
Just Christmas list.
I heard that one.
I said the same thing. Yeah, I just repeat what he said.
Okay. Christmas card list, chore list, bucket list, work list, grocery list, to-do list, instructions, ingredients, directions. I'm writing a list right now.
This list.
This motherfucking list of people we harmed. Now, in all of these lists, there are things to consider, okay? Your to-do list is not only just for today, it could be for the future, right? Very rarely are people writing lists about the past for the past. You can write about the past, make a list of things we've done wrong, harm we've caused, but it's mostly to prevent, and change something in the future. These lists could be for today, they could be for a month from now, they could be forever, right? For instance, your to-do list is probably for today. It could be for next week. It could be for next year. Maybe your to-do list is what you're going to do all month. If you have a to-do list for your whole lifetime, that's called a bucket list, okay? Generally, your bucket list is being continued and evolving. It's a list you have of things you want to do before you die. Chore list, right? Your chore list, maybe every day you have chores like dishes or making your bed, but weekly you may have chores like going grocery shopping, maybe cleaning your bathroom, or doing laundry, right? Christmas card list once a year. Instructions, if your ingredients, directions, you're reading those every day. Many different lists we use for all different reasons. Let's go with the grocery list, and we'll talk a little bit about the grocery list and try to build a comparison between our grocery list and similarities between that and what we got going on with our list of amends we're making now. So, why do you write a grocery list? What's the purpose of it? Don't forget. That's the main.
Don't just buy everything.
So to stop from buying everything, to kind of expedite the buying process. Why else? Why else would somebody write a list, a grocery list? They don't forget, so they don't buy everything, so they can expedite the buying process, right?
Plan meals.
Because having this list is needed to finish or make this meal or whatever the case may be. Hell yeah. Now, many reasons why somebody would make a grocery. Just because you have a grocery list, does that mean that you get everything on the list? No, right? What are some reasons that somebody would forget or not get, let's say not get something on the list? Even though it's written on the list, why would I not get it?
Out of stock. Or they don't have it.
Too expensive.
Maybe you don't have enough money. Maybe you forgot.
Budget list.
A budget list? Is that what you said?
I mean, just a budget is a list.
It fucking is, dude. It's like my least favorite list out there. Don't have enough money, forgot. Food sensitive, they don't have it. They're out of stock. Maybe you got a replacement.
Build it like a meal plan is a list.
Yep, let's put these over here. Meal plan, budgeting. So we have this list, and we have to make this list, which means we write it down, or we put it in our phone, or we text it to ourselves. The purpose of this list is so I don't forget, so I don't buy everything, so I can expedite the buying process. Like, if I have a list, I can look at the list, go to the aisle, instead of trying to think about what I need and then discover the aisle, whatever. And perhaps the grocery list it's also so that I can plan my meals, so that I can prepare myself for the future. You know, maybe people go grocery shopping on Sunday, so they're prepared to eat, and it makes it easier for them on Tuesday or Wednesday, so they don't have to go grocery shopping, and it takes more time and effort, etc. Now, why would I not get something on the list? Maybe it's out of stock. Maybe they don't have it. Maybe there's a food allergy, or maybe I'm gluten. I need gluten or some shit. Maybe I don't
You
have.
change your mind whenever you see it, like you decide against it.
Change your mind, absolutely. You just say I'm not, dude. Sometimes I will now. Sometimes I'll forget it. Like I'll forget to go to get the thing, and then I'll get to my car, like unloading groceries, and I remember, and I'm like, dude, I'm not going back. I'm not going fucking back in there, dude. I'm not going back in. Like yesterday, I went in there. I got a cake. I had to go to the grocery store. I went to Kroger. I got a cake. I got out. My mom texted me, said that we needed a bottle for my fucking baby, so I had to go back in and get a bottle. And then we needed sauce for something, and I'm like, dude, I'm not going fucking back in. I'm not going back in. Somebody else could go back in. I'm not going back to that fucking grocery store. You know what I mean? Maybe we change our mind. We say, I don't want it. It's not worth it. You know, sometimes I'll go in there wanting like fried chicken, and I just say it's not worth it to get the fried chicken. I change my mind. Can you think of anything
Can't
else?
shop hungry.
Yeah, dude, shop.
Can't shop high.
If I shop while I'm hungry, I'm just dropping like $300. I'm like, that looks good. Look at that.
Yep, give me that. Give me the Oreos. Dude, I have to sneeze, but it's not coming. Give me the Oreos. Give me the fucking frozen pizza. Give me the fucking ice cream, the cereal. Give me all that, dude. Hell yeah. Now, it's okay to not get stuff because it's out of stock, or you don't have it, or you don't have money, or whatever the case may be. That all makes sense. And it's okay to not do those things. But the best thing you could do is be prepared. I mean, and again, this isn't about what we're talking about today, is not about being in the grocery store buying these things. Most of what we're talking about is writing down the list. When it comes to the list, dude, I write it all down. Sometimes I don't write it all down. And when I don't write it all down, I'm less likely to get it than if it is written down. And the same thing goes with these amends. There's many reasons that we would or would not make this amends. Maybe we don't have to make it. Maybe they're sensitive to what we got to talk about. Maybe I haven't had enough change to make this amends. Maybe I forgot some of the damage that I actually caused this person. Maybe I'm trying to manipulate it by amending for one thing, not another. Maybe I changed my mind and I don't even want to make the amends. Maybe I'm making the amends on a foundation of resentment or bitter. And they always say, never make your resentment when you're angry, you know? So this is about the list, not the amends itself. And why do we write the list? And I think that the reason we write a grocery list is very common to the reason why we write many other lists, so we don't forget. You know, or else I would be buying everything. I would expedite, I would have a slower time getting these things done, so that I can plan my meals. Just consider this with the idea of a bucket list, right? So I don't forget the places I want to visit before I die. Or else I would just start going places, not really thinking about my big list. So if I'm not focused on my bucket list and traveling to like Egypt or some shit, then maybe I spend all my time traveling to places like fucking Florida, or places like fucking, you know, I've already been. Without this bucket list, maybe I would be vacationing to all these places I've already been instead of vacationing to the places I want to go. And this will expedite the maybe completion of the process. Like maybe if I have a bucket list, it's easy to go through the places that I want to go, et cetera, et cetera. It expedites that process, and I can plan these trips better. Same thing with every single one of these lists that you have. Okay? So the list is actually important. Just because we have the list doesn't mean we get it all, doesn't mean we complete it all, etc., etc. Now that's all okay if we don't complete it or whatever, but the bare minimum of becoming willing is to at least write the name down. We have to at least write the name down. That's the bare minimum willingness that we could have at this time. So now let's start looking at harm. So like what even constitutes harm? Harm is defined as physically injuring someone. Physically injuring someone. Now, we know that harm exceeds just physically injuring someone. I mean, what are some of the bare minimum ways that we are capable of harming other people? What are some ways that we harm people in active addiction?
Stealing.
Physical violence.
Verbal altercations. What was that one?
Emotional abuse or sex harms.
I missed that one.
Sex harms.
Sex harms. Can isolation harm someone?
Isolatory.
Yeah. Isolatory?
Close enough.
Can that harm someone? Isolating yourself? Does that cause harm?
Mentally, I don't think so, yeah.
So mental harm. What about secondary harm? So this is
Or neglect.
neglect. It's a good one.
Neglect your family, wife, kids.
I think of so I think when I say secondary harm, I mean that in comparison to like primary harm. Has anybody ever heard of secondary and primary resources before?
Yeah.
So there are primary resources like this person, thing, or whatever was there at the time of the event. These may be the people we harmed. We directly harmed these people. But then there are people who may be secondary harm. So maybe these are the kids of the people we harmed. You know, we didn't actually harm them, but they may have gotten harm from a byproduct of harm we caused. So if we stole from someone and maybe they couldn't get food later on that night for their kids would be secondary harm caused by the initial harm caused, right? It's that ripple effect idea. Let me get into some literature we have here. See if I can find it real quick. There we go. Okay. NA step working guide. There it is. Find step 8. Now let me share my screen with you guys. Okay. We made a list of all people we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. To this point, the steps have focused mostly on repairing ourselves and our relationship with a God of our understanding. Beginning with the 8th step, we bring other people into the healing process. People we harmed in our addiction, people who harmed us, people we harmed in our recovery, people we meant to harm, people we hurt by accident, people who are no longer in our lives, and people we expect to be close to for the rest of our lives. The 8th step is about identifying the damage we cause. It doesn't matter whether we caused it because we were overtaken by rage, carelessness, or because we were afraid. It doesn't matter whether our actions were based in selfishness, arrogance, dishonesty, or any other defect. It doesn't matter that we didn't intend to cause someone harm. All the damage we cause is material for 8th step. It may turn out that some of the harm we did can't be repaired. It may turn out that we ourselves can't directly make the repair. It may even turn out that we're not responsible for something we placed on our 8th step list. Our sponsor will help us sort that out before we go on to the 9th step. For now, our task is only to identify who we harmed, what that harm was, and become willing to make the amends. It is natural to wonder about so the only thing we need to do right now is identify the people we harmed, what was the harm itself, and become willing to make these amends. To become willing to make these amends may just bare minimally be writing the name down, and that is enough just for today. Eventually, our willingness may need to increase, and that doesn't mean we need to be willing to go out there and make amends. It just may mean that we need to be willing to make the amends when the opportunity presents itself. It is natural to wonder about the 9th step and how we will make these amends. While we're working the 8th step, what we think about our amends is bound to influence our work in this step. We may need to get some misconceptions out of our way before we can make our list. So some people, it's natural to think about the 9th step when doing the 8th step, but the best thing we can do is try to not think about the amends while we're doing the 8th step list, just thinking about the harm we cause. It's wonderful that we've already begun repairing our relationships with some of the people in our lives. Our family are probably delighted that we no longer use drugs. Some of the more overt damage we inflicted on others ceases as soon as we stop using drugs. If we manage to keep our jobs or stay in school, we're probably already performing better at those places. We're no longer harming our coworkers or employers, teachers, or other fellowships in certain ways. But is that enough? That is the living amends, okay? That's what a living amends is. Because we no longer use drugs, we stop causing harm directly associated with our using of drugs. But we still have emotional volatility. We still have character defects. We still have shortcomings. Yeah, we're not hurting people because we're getting blackout drunk, but we're still hurting people because we're procrastinating, or we have a sense of entitlement, or we avoid rejection, abandonment, or loneliness, etc. We've probably heard people in meetings emphasizing that amends means to change, not just to say I'm sorry. That what really counts is the way we're treating people now. But that doesn't mean that formal apologies have gone out of fashion. Direct, face-to-face verbal amends are extremely powerful, both as a means of spiritual growth for us and as a long-awaited comfort to the people to whom we make them. What our members are emphasizing is that we can't just offer people the same lame apologies and go right back to doing what caused the harm in the first place. So we have been making amends. Our amends have typically been on a foundation of zero change, which means that after we say we're sorry, we're unable to continue the behavior to prevent the same thing we made amends for from happening again. We become kings and queens of empty promises. We're unable to fulfill the responsibility required in not causing more harm to this person. Some of us may feel a bit weary at this point, especially if our sponsor had us do extensive writing on the first 7 steps. We inventoried our behavior in step 4, and we cataloged our character defects in step 6. Now we have to examine the same situations from yet another angle. It may seem as if we've examined our lives and our addiction in every possible way by the time we're done with these steps. Is this really all necessary? Aren't we just punishing ourselves by going over the same thing? No, we're not. The 8th step is the beginning of a process that lets us feel equal to ourselves. Instead of feeling shame and guilt, instead of forever feeling less than, we become able to look people in the eye. We won't have to avoid anyone. We won't have to be afraid we'll be caught and punished for some neglected responsibility. We will be free. Why would someone avoid working the 8th step and writing this list down? Question, why do you think people would avoid doing this 8th step and writing this down?
Say it one more time.
I missed that.
Yeah, you say that again.
Why would somebody hesitate writing a list of people they harmed? Or be afraid to do that?
Because they don't want to admit it yet, or they're too afraid to actually make amends. Or they don't believe that they actually harm. Yeah. Like, I hear a lot of people say, well, I didn't do anything. I was just there and drunk on the couch. I didn't harm my family. I was just there. I was drunk. But I didn't, I harm them.
Yep. Those are 2 great. There was another one in there that I forgot. What do you remember what it was? I'm not ready to admit they believe they cause no harm. What was the other one? Oh, they're afraid.
Yeah.
And you said that they were afraid of
To make amends.
Gotcha. That's a perfect answer. And that right there is 9, just like that's exactly what you're saying. That is 9th step getting in the way of 8th step. You see what I'm saying? I feel like if someone's not ready to admit it, then they know the harm they caused. They're just afraid to talk about it. They may not believe that it's possible for it to be removed. And the believe they cause no harm, I mean, that is harmful in itself. And you hit the nail on the head. People always saying, I only harm myself when I get high. I'm not, what are you talking about, dude? It's got nothing to do with you. I'm only fucking hurting myself when I get drunk. It's like, dude, no, we're not. Going back to harm, isolating is harm. Mentally harming people, secondarily harming people through neglect, rejection, stealing, verbal altercations, emotional abuse. This is all in the harm category. Hesitation to look at this stuff could cause us to engage in it even more. Like, if I don't believe I'm causing harm, then I'm not going to change the behavior that's causing the harm, which means inevitably I'm going to hurt somebody else as a result of this. So if I don't believe that I'm causing any harm, and I'm not causing any harm, then I'm just setting myself up to cause more harm. And if we've done all this work to get to the 8th step, to continue to unconsciously cause harm, I don't know, man. That may set someone up for a relapse, dude. That may set someone up to be completely isolated from family and friends, Not saying it's gonna, because there's some people in our lives who don't really need an amends. Like, when we make that, basic change to be sober, some people, that's good enough for them. For others, it's not. And I don't want to be caught off guard if somebody is not willing to accept an indirect amends by me just staying sober. I want to be willing to make that amends. I don't want to run from it or avoid it, because one day I may be prompted with it, and I want to be able to confront it with courage and bravery and etc., fearlessness, etc. Let's get back into the literature. Some of us go to the other extreme with this step. We can't wait to get right out there and make everything okay, unaware that we may cause more harm. We blunder forward, confessing infidelities to our spouses and our friends. We sit our families down and make them listen to every detail about our addiction, confirming their worst fears about what we were doing out there and filling in some of the blanks that, until then, had been left mercifully empty. In a state of excitement, we give our children a speech about how we have a disease for which we're not responsible, how we love our recovery, how wonderful life is going to be from then on, forgetting all the times before when we had made them so many empty promises. We stroll into our employer's office one day and announce that we're addicts and we've embezzled a great deal of money through indigenous means, but we're very sorry and will never do it again. Though our experiences with rushing to make amends will probably not be this extreme, we can surely grasp the point. If we try to make amends without our sponsor's guidance, without a plan, we can end up causing even more harm. Have you ever created more harm in a situation by rushing out to make amends before you were ready?
Yes.
What were those situations? Tell me what that was like. What happened?
All right. So I was in a 6-month program, and I was going through the steps in the program. It was 6 to 9 months. I was on like, yes, I was on like step 11, and I had not made amends to my mother-in-law. And my mother-in-law was staying at our house. She didn't know what to say to me. She was avoiding me. And, so when I'd walk in the room, she'd walk out. She was obviously really pissed off. And I told my wife, it is time. Like I was home for the weekend, because I was a lot of weekend passes. And I said, it is time for me to make amends to my mother-in-law. And she's like, are you sure? I go, yes, I know. This is something I should have done earlier. I'm ready. I go, I need you to take my kids and leave the house, leave us alone so I can make amends to my mother-in-law. And when I sat her down, I said, I know that I have caused you harm. I said, it's not enough for me to say that I'm sorry. Here is what I've done that has harmed you and has harmed my family and how it's affected you. I want to know what I can do to make it better. And she was still very, very angry and said, what you can do is leave my daughter and my grandkids and get the hell away from them forever. That's really what you can do. And I was not prepared.
Oh my God, dude.
I'm making amends. So if they tell me this is what you need to do to make amends, and I'm not willing to do that, I'm like, well, now what? And that's where I should talk to my sponsor before I made the amends or had an idea of where I was going with it. But I went balls deep and played without, a net or whatever, and, it went terribly, terribly wrong.
Dude, what happened after that? You got to tell me. Did you?
After that, I said, well, I don't know how to respond to that. And she goes, well, neither do I. And I left, called my sponsor, and he said, what the fuck were you thinking? And so I talked about it and bitched about it in meetings for the next week. And then the weekend after that, I came home and they packed up and left and went back to my in-laws' house, and we're dropping her off, and I was home alone, so I got drunk and got kicked out of the program. It did not go well.
Wow, dude. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Does anybody else have an example of a time we created more harm in a situation by rushing out to make amends before we were ready? Yeah, go ahead, Tavian.
I've never told this story in any group. I told it to my sponsor, but this is like a really deep story. But about 2 years ago, I had shot and killed a man in self-defense. And I basically tried to, the next day, really, I basically tried to make amends with the family. And they didn't want to hear it, basically trying to argue with me, this, that, and third. And it just made the situation worse than what it was. And but a few days ago, the mother actually reached out to me, and she was basically saying like, they forgive me. They knew I did what I had to do, or what I thought I had to do. But that in itself made me feel better. It's like a weight lifted off my shoulders. Even though I know I got to carry this for the rest of my life, but it's still something that made me feel better about the situation.
How does receiving forgiveness, thank you for sharing, how does receiving forgiveness make that experience and living with it easier for you? I think that that's a major thing that you brought up, that she was able to forgive me and I feel better about it going forward in life. How does that forgiveness generate that? Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
So for me, basically, it was like, you know, you already done something to harm your family, and you know that they like owe resentment to you towards that. So you not only do you have to walk around with knowing that you did something, but you have to walk around with knowing that a set of people pretty much feel like they're gonna hate you for the rest of your life. And just knowing that they forgive you, or knowing that they don't hold it against you, it like feels like a weight is lifted off your shoulders. And it's like, even though you still have to carry what you did for the rest of your life with you, you at least know that they can let it go, or they can move on past it. So that gives you like the motivation to move on from the situation yourself.
It's almost like from the way I imagine it as you're sharing, it's like not only are we carrying the weight of what we did wrong and knowing that we did it wrong, but we're also carrying the weight of all the other people as well. And like the forgiveness allows us to not carry that weight. I just have to carry my own shame and guilt and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody, thank you for sharing. Does anybody else have a situation they made worse by rushing out to make the amends? Why should we slow down and consult with another person before making these amends? So you guys talked a little bit about that. You know, I should have talked to my sponsor beforehand, or whatever the case may be. What can talking to those people and sharing, you know, these situations do to reinforce the amends? Why share it with your sponsor?
I feel like talking about it with somebody first, it kind of gives you like the feeling of making amends, or like preparing you to do that. Because other than that, you just holding it in until you go and try to. And like talking to somebody first kind of gives you an idea on how to do it, or which way you should go about it. It's like relieving the weight a little bit before you actually go and try to make that amends.
Okay, I like that. Thank you. Anybody else? Why do we need to slow down and consult with a sponsor or someone before making amends?
Like, consult with my sponsor on everything because I have the first thought wrong piece, you know. And my first thought is usually selfish and self-centered. So, you know, if I have a good idea, my sponsor says I need to call him. But if I have a great idea, he says I need to sit down and have dinner with him. So I usually have to discuss things with him because I will see something in a completely different way. Like I had a phone call with my wife recently, and my sponsor was there in the room with me, and I had it on speaker, and you know we had this entire conversation. I hung up and I said, "Did you hear how unreasonable she was? And she did this and that and the other." And he goes, "Did we just hear the same conversation? Because that's not what I heard at all." So, you know, I usually have to talk to my sponsor so I get out of, you know, the crazy and more into the solution. Instead of saying this is what I, you know, think, feel, and believe, you know, these are the facts that happen. And he helps me identify the facts.
So, from what I'm hearing from both of you is it gives you a second view. You know what I mean? It gives you somebody to bounce ideas off of. Confirm or deny if you need to make this amends, if you don't need to make this amends, things to say, things not to say. You know what I mean? Because if we don't have that, like the grocery list, like when I sit down and talk to my girl, "Hey babe," ready? Classic. "Hey babe, you need anything from the grocery store?" You know what I mean? Yes. And by the time you're doing an 8-step list, your sponsor's going to be very familiar with the people who are probably going to be on this list. You know what I mean? So it would be like, "Hey, I'm going to make an amends." "Oh, awesome. Who are you going to make the amends to?" "My wife." "Ooh, you sure?" You know what I mean? "Hey, what are you cooking for dinner tonight?" "I was thinking about cooking ribs." "Hey, it's 8 p.m. You're going to cook ribs right now?" "Yeah, you sure about that?" You know what I mean? You sure? Like, that's a long cook. You know, you're going to go make an amends with your significant other right now. That's a big amends. And I don't think you have enough time under your belt to go making that amends right now. Maybe wait until tomorrow, right? Maybe wait until another time in the future when you're a little bit more prepared to make this amends. And whatever, maybe prepared financially, maybe prepared mentally, you know, maybe prepared perspectively. You know, maybe I didn't have the full perspective of my mother-in-law and expect her to say something like that. Had I done a full inventory on my relationship with my mother-in-law, maybe I could expect her to say something like that. You know what I'm saying? But we may have never done something like a fourth and fifth and, you know, character defects.
I did not put my mother-in-law on my fourth step. And it didn't really occur to me. But then I was still ready to jump in on, you know, 9 with them. I hadn't made a list. She wasn't on that list. And all of a sudden I got the right idea.
Yep.
So,
dude, go ahead.
I have an interesting situation that I ran into where I had cheated on my wife, my ex-wife, currently. I had cheated on my ex-wife, and I cheated on my ex-wife with my sponsor's sister. And so when I met with my sponsor and said, all right, in my 5th step, I said, I cheated on my ex-wife with your sister, and I owe you an amends. And he goes, well, my sister's a whore. I'm really not surprised that you had sex with her. I'm just surprised that my son's youth pastor had sex with her, because I was also his son's youth pastor.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. That is an incredible story, bro.
I have worse stories. I locked a clown in the trunk of my car one time.
You what? In the
I'll
trunk of
tell you
your car?
that. What?
What happened? You got locked in the trunk of your car?
No. I locked a Klingon in the trunk of my car, lost the car for 2 days. Then the clown came back 2 days later and gave me my keys back because I'd also lost the keys.
Wow, bro.
I'm a real deal alcoholic.
Yes, you are, yes, you are, my friend. Thank you for sharing, dude. That is, I'm so happy you're here. And
I have lived a life. I went from being a pastor to a pimp, a drug dealer, and a porn director in 2 weeks.
a porn director?
2 weeks. Well, I mean, it was an iPhone and a laptop, but I made about $4,000 off of it.
Wow,
So,
wow. That is incredible, dude. Yes. So when it comes to writing the list down and the harm, that is mostly all we're doing now. I have a sponsee that I work with. Bro, we're talking about, this is relative to you not writing your mother-in-law on the 4th step.
right.
I'm on his 9th step with him right now. And dude, I've been working with this guy for a while now. And just last week he goes, yeah, hey, did I ever tell you I broke my hip one time? I go, dude, you broke your hip? He goes, yeah, my back too. I go, how the fuck did you break your hip and your back? He goes, I got drunk and I was climbing on a roof and I fell off of the roof and broke my back and broke my hip. And I'm like, yo, you have never once mentioned this. Like, had you brought that up to your sponsor, hey, I'm going to make an amends to my mother-in-law, he may have been like, dog, you've never once brought up your mother-in-law. You know what I mean? Like, how about we do some work on your mother-in-law before that? This dude never brought up falling off of a roof and breaking his back and his hip. I'm like, yo, you have a lot of shit you're going to have to amend from some stuff like that. Like, that is an amends that's got to be made for some behavior like that. Yeah, so I've made amends before I was ready and they went horrible. Yeah, go ahead.
But the thing back with cheating on my ex-wife, I got to my 9th step with that sponsor, and I was like, I need to make amends to my ex-wife and tell her I cheated on her. He's like, no, you don't. He goes, there's no reason. You're divorced. Like, you've been divorced almost a year now. There's absolutely no reason for you to go back to her and say that, other than you're wanting to go, because, it was right. Because really, the only reason I wanted to do it was to say fuck you to my ex-wife. So.
Well, see, that's awesome that you're getting down to, like, at least the sponsor calls us out on our motives, dude. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, why do you want to do that? That is such a great sponsor question to ask. You know what I mean? Like, what is my motive around the amends? What is my motive of making an amends for this specifically? Yeah, so those are all great reasons why we should invite somebody, whether it's a sponsor, therapist, friend, whatever, into this amends process. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a break. We'll come back at 2:40. Did I show the forgiveness video last week of court cam? Did I show that in here?
I don't know. Last week when you showed the video,
no, I showed
I was in therapy, so
the engineering.
You showed what to do with basketball.
So this week I'm gonna show a video it's a short video. It's gonna be at the end, but I just wanted to make sure I haven't shown it yet. If we've seen it before, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna show it again, and there's another one that I'm gonna show anyways. So if you've seen it before, you're gonna watch it again. But when we come back at 2:40. When you come back, we're gonna try to wrap up all this reading and these questions in time to watch the video. So take your time, do whatever you gotta do, and I'll see you when you get back.
Okay.